Well, thank you all so much for coming out here tonight. Clearly, I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping for a yes vote tonight, and I'm joined here by some of my colleagues, Councillor Jean-Carlo Carra, Councillor Jeff Davison, Councillor George Chahal, and I think all of us could have said, would say, that we were all hoping for a yes vote tonight. But ultimately, the people have spoken in big numbers, and the people have spoken clearly. And this is very clear direction for where we go from here. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but before I get there, I have a whole bunch of people I want to thank. I want to thank everyone who has worked so hard on this process for so many years. All of the community volunteers on the Bid Exploration Committee, on the board of the Calgary 2026, the hardworking staff of Calgary 2026. I particularly want to thank the leadership, Scott Hutchison and Mary Moran. I don't think they've slept in months for the tremendous work that they did. And you know what? Every single one of those people did that work for one reason and one reason only, and that is because they love Calgary. And they love the future of this city, and they want to build a foundation for that future. I also want to thank the incredibly dedicated public servants who've been working on this. Here at the City of Calgary, led by City Manager Jeff Fielding, and particularly by the head of our City Secretariat, Glenn Nicole, and her team. They have done work like I have never seen public servants do before on something they knew was fundamentally important for the city. So thank you to them. Thank you as well to our partners at the provincial and federal governments, particularly those public servants who really buckled down, tried to be creative and thoughtful in making this work. And finally, thank you to our partners at the Canadian Olympic Committee and at the International Olympic Committee for believing in this bid from the very beginning. You know, a lot of folks have said that this has been a divisive conversation for Calgary. And I got to tell you, I reject that thinking. Because what we had was passionate people talking about the future of the community and talking about what they believe in. And I think that's a tremendous thing. And I got to tell you, despite some of the not very nice stuff online, every single person I talked to in real life, whether it was at the Tim Hortons or on the C train or walking down the street, whatever side they came on, had thoughtful questions that were rooted in a real love for the city and what we're trying to do together in this city. So where do we go from here? Clearly, we've started a great conversation, the kind of civic engagement that I love. How do we continue that conversation in really thinking about what it's going to take to move this city forward? When I opened that new public library last week, I said that in this city, we are allergic to small dreams. And I think we continue to be allergic to small dreams. And starting tomorrow, when we release our budget, and every day beyond that, we will continue to work on this vision of this city, a great place to make a living, a great place to make a life. And we will continue to work together on how to move that vision forward. So with that, let me say thank you to everyone involved. Thank you to all the Calgarians who voted in huge numbers. It's a big deal. Thank you to Laura Kennedy and her team who put on a flawless election and did such a great job doing it. And thank you to the people on all sides who care about this city. We'll go to questions. Oui, je suis un peu triste, c'est vrai, parce que j'espérais qu'il y aura un oui ce soir. Mais pour moi, c'est important d'écouter les voix des peuples. Et les citoyens ont parlé et ont dit que c'est non. Et pour moi, c'est ma direction des citoyens.
Mr. Mayor, is it dead? Is it dead tonight?
Yeah. You know, I think it's pretty clear that we saw a clear number. We saw a big voter turnout. And for me, that means that I ultimately take my direction from the citizens. So on Monday at City Council, we will have a little debate, which I anticipate will end in a vote to suspend this.
Do we live in the same city that was here in '88, that can do, the world capital of volunteerism, those attributes that Bidco touted throughout this campaign?
Let's remember that in the dying days of this campaign, 5,000 Calgarians signed up to volunteer for something that wasn't even going to happen for 8 years from now. I really reject the rhetoric on both sides that says this is about whether we're a can-do or a can't-do city. Because of course we're a can-do city, and we may disagree on which projects are going to take us there. And clearly the citizens tonight thought this wasn't the right project at this time. But does that mean that we're going to sit on our laurels? Does that mean we're going to sit back and hope that everything gets better? Of course not. You know, you look at that library we built, and you think back to those people in 1908 who built that city hall. That incredible city hall was not built for a town of 20,000 people. The citizens of 1908 were thinking about the city they wanted to build. And that's what we'll continue to do, and we'll do it every day. It won't be this path, but there are so many other paths. I often say that our dreams in Calgary are only limited by the endless prairie sky. And starting tomorrow, under that big blue sky, we find a new path.
Couple more questions?
Many people were concerned about the lack of transparency with BidCo because it's not subject to FOIP. Now that this looks like it's going to be suspended, as you said, Monday, will Calgarians get a clearer sense of how the tax dollars were spent?
I can't imagine why not, but of course, as you know, because we've had this conversation many times, I would challenge the assertion of your statement. Yet again, GamesBids.com this week said that this is the most transparent and accessible bid ever.
Right, but I'm talking
Olympic
specifically
history.
about how the money was spent. We don't know how the money was spent. That's what specifically.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I can't see why not.
Can you or your council learn anything from those opinions expressed by the no side throughout this campaign?
You know, I think that when we set aside the mean stuff, and there was some mean stuff, mostly online, but when we really think about what were people concerned about, I think it's really important for us to, over the weeks and months to come, to really start peeling that onion and better understand how we got here and what was at the root of people's concerns. And in addition, what is at the root of people's hopes and dreams for the city and how we move forward.
Pour vous, qu'est-ce qui n'a pas fonctionné? Qu'est-ce qui n'a pas fonctionné dans cette campagne-là? Pourquoi les gens ont choisi de...
Je ne sais pas si je vais dire qu'il y a quelque chose qui ne fonctionne pas. Vraiment, c'était une opportunité, une occasion pour les citoyens de dire vraiment leurs opinions. Et pour ça, même si on a la meilleure campagne du monde, il faut vraiment écouter les voix du public. Maybe I'll say that in English. That was a very interesting question, which was what went wrong in the Yes campaign. And what I said was, I'm not sure that I would agree with the assertion that something went wrong in the campaign. Because ultimately, it's about listening to the people. And the best campaign in the world is not smarter than the wisdom of the people. And ultimately, if this is what the people said, in a democracy, the people are always right.
Do you see this as a non-confidence vote in terms of how council handled the entire process?
I don't. I think that the vast majority of council, including the three gentlemen that I'm standing with here, did this in a very fair way. And you know, there'll be people who say, look, the no side didn't play the same game. You know, the no side on council was no from the beginning and oh, what's a nice word to say, guys? Strongly, vociferously, no from the beginning. And those of us who were trying to negotiate a great deal were much quieter because ultimately it was about the deal. It wasn't about yes at all costs. So yeah, political folks might criticize us for that. Why didn't you come out swinging at the beginning? But ultimately, it was the right thing to do.
When do we start 2020 or 2030?
That's an excellent question, and I knew I'd be asked that today. I got to say that based on the results today, and I'll ask my colleagues if they agree with me on this one, I don't see any desire to move forward with 2030. This was not a rushed process. This was an opportunity over the last 2.5 years to have a very, very open conversation with Calgarians, and they've given us their opinion. And set aside the geopolitics of who's going to get 2030 and how there's really no chance for Canada, which is probably true. But setting all of that aside, you know, I can't see this ending up in a different place. And so, you know, I wouldn't want Mayor Carrar, Mayor Davison, or Mayor Chahal 4 years from now to be in the exact same situation. No, that was not an announcement. I was being facetious before you ask the next question. And so, I mean, I'll ask my colleagues if they're excited about starting a 2030 bid next week. But it seems to me that I don't think anything would be much different. Guys?
I'd say it is.
I would say that one of the things that we heard around this whole debate was, is this the right vision to is this the right path to get on without a strategic vision? And the argument was, well, if we get on this path, we can sort of develop a strategic vision for the city. And I think the thoughtful knows, we're like, well, let's actually get a strategic vision first. So I think that we have to sort of retrench to the project of figuring out where we want to go from here, who we want to become, who we are, where we come from, and who we want to become. And that's something that we have to engage all Calgarians in. And I don't see the Olympics being part of that conversation.
I think it's important. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry,
Go
I would
ahead.
just say that, you know, economically, I don't think our situation in Canada is changing anytime soon. And so pushing the can down the road another 4 years, I just can't see the priority when a lot of the conversation out there was a really kind of a critique of the economic situation Canada's in right now.
Okay.
I'll add one last thing before we walk away, because Councillor Carra, as he always does, pegged me on something. I'm a strategist by training. It's what I do. And certainly for the last 8 years, we have been working hard to develop a very thoughtful vision and very thoughtful strategy for the city. It predates my being mayor. It started in 2005 when we developed the Imagine Calgary vision. Very recently, we unanimously endorsed an economic development strategy for the city. So I'll tell you that there has been some misinformation out there, most of which we chalk up to politics. But I will tell you on that one, when people say, oh, the city doesn't have a strategy, oh, the city put all its tools in the Olympic toolbox, that could not be further from the truth. This city has a very, very thoughtful plan forward economically, socially, environmentally. I'd put it on par with any government in the world, and I think that's something we should be very proud of. And guess what? Tomorrow we get to keep working on it. Thank you all.
Thanks,